every single year, whenever there's a bad video game movie, you hear someone come out and say, well, maybe you just can't make a good video game movie. We have 4 movies coming out this year, each with more effort being put into them than any other video game movie ever. One of them has to succeed. This is fine. It's fine. Really. It's fine. No. No. No, I refuse. I refuse to review this movie. No, shut up, Waltex. You don't understand. This movie was important. It might not have seemed like it was, but we have been haunted for years, decades even, by the curse of bad video game movie adaptations. And it's been so bad for so long because studios, they don't get it. They don't play these games. They don't understand what makes these games work. But this movie was actually going to be made hand in hand with the people who actually made the video game. This one had promise. This was supposed to be the movie that finally broke that curse. I believed in it, and it just lied to us like all the other ones. Let that be a lesson, kids. Don't believe in anything. Especially me. Don't look at me like I'm crazy. This is a big deal. Obi-Wan, help me make a big deal out of this.
You were the chosen one!
Okay, maybe that was too big of a deal out of it. I mean, it's not all bad, but it's certainly not good either. Charlton Heston, back me up on this.
You maniacs! You blew it up! Oh, damn you! God damn you all to hell!
Okay, buddy, take it down a notch. Yeah, okay, it's not good, but, you know, it's... Maybe some of us, including myself, have been over-exaggerating and overreacting to how bad it is. I mean, there were some good things in here. Right, Rotten Tomatoes? Holy Groovatron, Batman, 20%? Oh my god, guys! Yes, this is not a good film, but not a 20% bad film. Not that that rating actually means anything, but still, I think people might have been judging this film a tad too harshly, and I'll admit I probably was doing it myself. So, yes, maybe I should actually review this film, because somebody out there should actually point out the good things in there. You know, just after I talk about all the bad things in there. There were good things in this movie, right? Okay, just checking. Now, the story of Ratchet and Clank is that Ratchet was abandoned as a child on this desert planet, so he's got a bit of a mysterious past, almost like there's a secret to him that is yet to be revealed, and he spent his entire life doing 2 things: tinkering with machines in his garage, and worshipping this legendary team of space heroes. Oh my god, Ratchet is Rey from Star Wars. I'll let you guys argue that one in the comments down below, but for now, let's continue. The team that he worships is the Galactic Rangers, which is a team of space heroes who have been saving the galaxy for years through the use of crazy weapons and lots of muscle flexing. But there's a threat on the horizon, as Chairman Drek, who is... I don't know, it never actually really comes up. Anyway, Chairman Drek has been blowing up one planet after another and building an army of killer robots to carry out his evil schemes. But one day, one of those robots comes out a little bit less big and threatening and a little bit more small and cuddly. Seriously, Clank is adorable. The worst thing about this movie's failure is it means it'll be that much longer before I can find a life-size figure of Clank for my wall. So Clank is created defective, which means that he's not willing to obey Chairman Drek, so he runs out with all the secret plans that he stole from them and heads out to try and find the Galactic Rangers. He ends up crash landing right next to where Ratchet lives. Ratchet saves him, the 2 of them meet, become best pals, head out to find the Galactic Rangers, and embrace their destiny as heroes. Sounds like a fun time, right? Yeah, here's the first problem. You know that thing that I just gave you? The plot summary? In which I just told you the major plot points, but I didn't tell you the important stuff that tied each of the plot points together, which would actually make this a full story? Yeah, the movie does the same thing. One of the biggest problems with this movie is the script, because it honestly feels like it was written by somebody who knew what scenes needed to be in there for it to be a movie, but didn't know what little moments or what events needed to be in there to tie all these scenes together to make it go from just a series of events to an actual story. I always call these types of scripts amateur architect scripts because it's the exact same thing that would happen if you went to somebody on their very first day of architect school and said, draw a blueprint for a building. They would know what rooms needed to be in there, but they wouldn't know where to put all the support beams. They wouldn't know how thick to make the walls. They wouldn't know where to put all the electrical wiring. They would just have a series of rooms in there, but not the stuff that makes it go from a series of rooms to an actual building. I'll give you an example of what I mean. Ratchet has to ask for time off from work so that he can go to this audition to meet the Galactic Rangers. Then he ends up going on this big great adventure with the Galactic Rangers, and there's no mention of his job or his boss or needing more time off or anything like that ever again, until an hour later when all of a sudden all that stuff comes back because they needed it to for that moment. Or Ratchet and Clank really don't have much interaction with each other than, yeah, we're going out on a mission together, and then at the end they're best friends. Why are they best friends? Well, because that's what would happen in a movie. Or there's a moment where something goes wrong and everybody knows whose fault it is, but because in a movie there would be a moment where Ratchet needs to doubt himself, everybody blames Ratchet instead, and it makes no sense at all. There's literally a moment where a news anchor is on TV, they say whose fault it is, not Ratchet's, and then the very next sentence out of his mouth is, so can we trust Ratchet? It makes no sense at all. But it's in there because there's always that moment where the hero has to doubt himself, so they just threw it in there. And then after Ratchet starts to doubt himself, a character who we have barely seen at all comes in, gives him a piece of advice, and not just a piece of advice, but the perfect piece of advice that he needed for that moment. And the piece of advice is so perfect, you have to look at who gave it and go, I do not believe for a second that you would have come up with that perfect line right then and there. But he needed to give that line because that's what happens in a movie. Hero doubts himself, gets advice, they're fixed. Or perhaps the worst example of it, you know how in a movie there will be something that gets introduced early on that doesn't seem important, but then later on it ends up saving the day? Yeah, that's a great thing to have in your story. It is. But they put it in here, and the thing that gets introduced early on makes no sense why it would be there. They might as well just have stopped the film and pointed a giant sign at it and went, trust me, this will be important later, because there is no reason for it to exist in the scene that's introduced. In fact, it makes so little sense, another character actually has to ask Ratchet, why do you have that? And he just turns to him and goes, I don't know. When in fact there actually are reasons why he might have had it. You could have thought that through. You could have come up with a reason why he would have made this thing, but the people making this movie were either just too lazy to think of one, or they just thought it would have been funnier if there was no reason. It's not funny, it's confusing! And sadly, that's the other big problem with this movie, the comedy. Yes, this is a comedy, as it should be. Ratchet and Clank should be a great comedy. However, this is not the comedy that it thinks it is. I got 4 really good laughs in this movie. I did. There were 4 moments in which I went, that is actually a really good laugh. However, there is basically 1 joke per minute in this film, which comes down to roughly 94 jokes in this movie, and I only laughed at 4 of them, one of which being in the post-credits scene. That leaves about 90 jokes that just fell flat. And don't get me wrong, I didn't groan at them. They weren't so bad that they made me groan. They just kind of made me sit there. They were just bland. They just left me going, not hating, not disgusted, not upset, just... And yeah, that is a very large part of this film. In fact, I don't want to sound mean, but there were so many moments in this movie in which I actually had to ask myself, was that a joke? And I don't mean that as in, oh, who would have thought that would have been funny? No, I mean, was that supposed to be funny, or was it just a regular line of dialogue that was being said by a kind of clever and witty guy? I don't honestly know if you wanted me to laugh at that moment. And a comedy should not make you ask that question. However, even though many of the lines were bland and a lot of the jokes fell flat, I still enjoyed myself throughout a large portion of this film, and that's because of the great characters. This movie has some really great, entertaining characters in there. Ratchet, Clank, Dr. Nefarious, and especially Captain Quirk are all great characters being brought to life by some really talented voice actors. It's the same voice actors taken directly from the game, and they knew exactly what they were doing. And because of that, even though I would be sitting there for long stretches of the time not laughing at any of the jokes, I still found myself kind of enjoying myself because these characters were just that entertaining. Although, I hate saying this, but I can't help but think, should I really be applauding this film for these characters when this film didn't actually create these characters? And I don't mean these characters originated somewhere first. I mean, they didn't even really adapt these characters so much as just pick them up and put them in the movie. Because, as I said, a lot of people who actually worked on the game did work on this film. And you can tell because these characters really do feel like they came straight from the game. Their personality, their look, even the voice actors themselves, as I said, came directly from the game. So I want to applaud this film for these great characters, but all I'm really doing is just applying this film for not changing these great characters, for actually being willing to just pick them up and put them in the movie. So, can I really do that? Can I really applaud this movie for simply not screwing it up? I'd like to take this time to applaud this movie for not screwing it up. One of the biggest problems with video game movies is that they're constantly being handed over to people who just don't care, who don't understand what make this franchise work. I could go down the list of all the video game movies that are so far off from the game that you can actually feel the boardroom full of producers just sitting there going, I don't care if it works in the video game, it's too silly, it's too goofy, nobody's gonna want that, we need something edgier, we need to make this live action, we need to make this something that the kids will like, even though it's been proven consistently that the kids like the video game and want to see an accurate adaptation of that. You know there are so many games out there where that's the conversation that went down, but on this film, you can actually feel that the people who made it loved this game, actually knew this game, had actually played it, actually understood what made this game work. They just didn't understand how to make a movie work. The animation studio that worked on this movie is the same animation studio that brought us Escape from Planet Earth and several straight-to-DVD Barbie movies. Yep. And you can feel it, not just from poor story structure, not just from the bland humor, but also from the animation itself. I want to show you something. This is footage from the brand new Ratchet and Clank movie. This is footage from the brand new PlayStation 4 Ratchet and Clank video game, which is actually based on the movie itself. One of the reasons why people want to see their favorite video games get adapted into movies is because there's typically an unspoken agreement between the video game fans and the movie studios that if they let them adapt their video game, then it will end up looking better because they typically have a much larger budget and much larger team to actually work on this thing to make it look that much bigger. Yet, on this movie, which only had a budget of $20 million, the characters look kind of flat. The sets look pretty basic. And the world looks kind of empty. But what do you expect from the studio that made the money for nothing video? Hey, back in the day, that thing was mind-blowing. So not only do you have a movie adaptation of a video game that looks worse than the video game, but also, just going back to the humor of this film, it's not like the Ratchet and Clank video games aren't known for being funny. In fact, far from it. That was one of the things that made it stand out when it first came around. I remember when I was a kid and I played that game for the first time, it was one of the first video games out there that actually made me legitimately laugh out loud. Those games are known for being so clever and fun, and that's what makes this movie such a shame. It's that, yeah, when you look at other video game adaptations, sure, this might suck, but as much as I hate to admit, it is an improvement over this.
Oh, Barry!
That was too close. You were almost a Jill sandwich.
You're right. Barry, thanks for saving my life.
Back in the day, when that's the kind of video games that we were getting, yeah, your movie could suck, but by comparison, it would still look halfway decent, maybe even good. But these days, with the level of quality that our video games are at, when you make something that is a bland adaptation of something that is genuinely great, it doesn't look good by comparison, it looks even worse by comparison. And when you think about the fact that a 3D movie ticket can cost you upwards of $20 these days, if you have to take at least 3 people to see a movie, you would actually be better off just skipping the film and buying the new video game that is based on the movie, and you would probably get more hours of entertainment out of it and laugh and enjoy yourself way more at it. But that's why I would recommend people who haven't played the games. Maybe it's better that you just play the game first. What about for all the people out there who have played the games, who are fans of this franchise? I want to recommend it to you, I guess. I don't know. I don't know, because I'll admit it. I was sitting there in those seats and I got a bit of giddy joy when I saw Clank come to life. I did. There were many moments like that in which I was like, oh my god, that's Clank. Oh my god, there's a little Easter egg in the background. I recognize that from the game. I will admit it. I got that nostalgic joy from that. I did enjoy actually seeing Clank come to life and walking around up there and actually being the Clank from the games. Not some dark, edgy version of Clank. Not some real-world live-action Clank that will haunt your nightmares because the studio thought would be a good idea. No, that's Clank. That's Ratchet. That's Dr. Nefarious. That's Captain Quirk. They're all up there on the big screen. They got that right. And if you are a fan of this franchise, yes, you will get a nostalgic joy out of seeing all the things that they got right. You will also get a nostalgic rage at all the things they got wrong. Okay, maybe rage is a bit of a strong word, but you are going to get frustrated at the way that it portrays some of the elements from the game. Again, not because the people making this didn't understand them, they just didn't know how to incorporate them. For example, the most memorable thing about the Ratchet and Clank universe, the thing that makes it stand out from all other platformers, are the weapons. In every single Ratchet and Clank game, there are dozens of crazy, zany, imaginative guns that you can use to blast your way through the levels. And in this movie, there's a really quick training montage at the beginning of the film in which Ratchet gets introduced to many of these weapons, but they're all the most basic weapons, like the one that just shoots a laser beam or the one that just shoots a missile, and then that's it. Then for the next hour of this movie, he is just using regular blasters. Everyone is just using regular blasters. Until the very end of the movie, when they remember, oh yeah, right, we were supposed to use these weapons. They just suddenly bring out tons of brand new ones that we have never seen before, but they put them in there like we've been trained with them, like we're supposed to know them, and instead it just felt jarring. I mean, I'm saying that as someone who's played the game and can actually recognize these weapons. If I was someone who had no connection to these games and was just sitting here for the first time, I'd be like, hold on, did they seriously just go from weapons that shoot laser beams and missiles to a weapon that turns someone into a sheep? I'd be confused if I was an audience member because they don't even recognize this stuff. It just comes out there. And that's honestly the biggest problem with this movie. As I said, these people, they understand the games. You can tell that they love these weapons as much as anybody else who has played these games, but that's what this movie is. It's a movie about a game that has great characters, a wonderful universe, an amazing concept, great props and weapons in the hands of people who only know how to make straight-to-DVD kids movies. And so I have to give this movie my score of 1 dinosaur-shaped chicken nugget. Yes, as I said, this film was made by an animation studio that specialized in making to direct-to-DVD kids movies, and it shows. But here's the thing. Kids are allowed to go and see movies. And yeah, there's a bunch of really good kids films out there. There are a bunch of really smart kids films out there. There are a bunch of kids films out there with amazing messages to them. But kids are just like adults. And there's a bunch of really smart, great films out there for adults. But I don't want to spend my entire year just watching documentaries that are all about prejudices from Victorian era England. Sometimes I just want to watch a really dumb comedy. Sometimes I just want to watch a really dumb action film where stuff just blows up. And that's what this is for kids. Yes, I thought the humor was flat, but at the same time, I remember what I found funny when I was a kid, and it was this. And yeah, the story might be poorly put together, but as I said, it's got all those key plot points in there, and a kid would be able to understand that. In fact, it might even be a good introductory to a story structure for them. And yeah, the animation is nothing amazing, but to a kid, this animation would be stunning to them. They would love it. So if your kid wants to go and see this film, let them. They had a hard week at school. They deserve to go out there and see a space cat flying around with his robot buddy. I guess what I'm trying to say is, yes, you should feed your kids vegetables. You should make sure they eat their Brussels sprouts so that way they grow up big and strong and healthy. But every now and again, Just give them a couple of dinosaur-shaped chicken nuggets. It's fun for them. And you know what? If you're an adult, dinosaur-shaped chicken nuggets might be subpar compared to what you're used to eating, but you can still eat it. You can still stand it. I went into this thing expecting chicken cordon bleu, and when they served me a plate of dinosaur-shaped chicken nuggets and mac and cheese, yeah, I was mad at it. I was frustrated with it. But I still ate it. And sure, it might not have tasted great or really even that good, but I don't regret eating it. And yes, this movie didn't break the curse of bad video game adaptations, but at the same time, it's not like it did any additional damage to it. In fact, in an odd way, this actually is a step forward because with this film, there actually is that audience that I can recommend this to. Whereas with most video game movies, my recommendation depends solely on how drunk you are before you begin watching it. Plus, this also shows that Hollywood is learning. It's that they are willing to finally go, you know what? Maybe sometimes the video game does get it right, and we don't have to twist and manipulate it into our vision of what will work. Sometimes the video game actually will work. And also it shows that they're willing to hand these properties off to people who do actually know the property. Instead of just grabbing whoever they can at the moment, they actually are willing to find people out there who do have a genuine love for these games. Those are two big problems that this movie did actually fix. So kudos to you. Now, hopefully later this year, some of the other video game movies can fix all the additional problems.
Hey everybody, thank you for tuning in to our episode today, and a big thanks to Big Nate, who requested that we review Ratchet and Clank today. Remember, we will review anything that you guys request as long as you leave it down in the comments of one of our reviews. It can be anything from the world of geekery, whether it's a movie, TV show, video game. If you request it, we'll review it. And if you like this video, then make sure to hit that subscribe button and give us a big old thumbs up down below. You can also check out more videos from us right now, including our spoiler talk, by clicking on those videos right up there. And if you like this video, then make sure that you share it all around the web. Every time that you do it, it helps out this channel, and I really appreciate it. So thank you everybody for watching today's episode, and come back next time.